It's 2008. The market's out of control and you just lost $50 million. How could you possibly recover from that? Well, today's guest not only did, he's gone on to thrive from it. Let's have ourselves a pocket-sized pep talk because I'm pretty sure we're going to pick up a tip or two.
A pocket-sized pep talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Today's guest, Rod Khleif, is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, multiple business owner, author, mentor, and community philanthropist who is passionate about business, life, success, and I like this last part, giving back. As one of the country's top real estate trainers, Rod has personally owned and managed over 2,000 properties. Well, once I read about this man, Rod, I knew we had to have him on the show. Any case, welcome to the show, Rod.
Rob, thanks for having me, buddy. Let's have some fun.
You bet. It's a pleasure to have you here. Let's get to work. I don't want to bury the lead. I've got other questions, I promise. And I know you've probably answered this one a few times, but $50 million, how does one recover from that?
Well, listen, when someone gets to know me, they know that my whole way of life is around mindset and psychology. And that's how I did it. And so it was reassociating with what I wanted and why I wanted it. That was probably one of the primary things. So if you come to one of my boot camps, I teach people how to buy apartment buildings. That's what I do. And if you come to one of my boot camps, you'll find that within the first hour and a half, that's all we do is goals. Because how do you get anything if you don't know what the heck it is, right? You've got to know what you want. You've got to have clarity. You've got to have what Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls a burning desire. So you push through limiting beliefs, you push through fear, or maybe you're comfortable. And we both know the comfort zone's a warm place and nothing grows there. So you got to be able to push through all that. And so, I reassociated with what I wanted. It's a natural human tendency to focus on the negative, to focus on loss, which, could easily have become my story. Woe was me, I lost $50 million. I use the story, but I use it to teach, not to bemoan my existence. And so, I tell my students, don't let the vehicle, if it's multifamily real estate or whatever it is, don't let the vehicle be your identity. Let the vehicle be the vehicle. If it's your identity, you're a failure if it fails. But, candidly, Rob, this, we fail our way to success. We're entrepreneurs are like sharks. They only die if they stop swimming. And I call them seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. Yeah, it sucked. It was a big one, but that's what it was a seminar. And as I told you before we started recording, I've built 27 businesses, several worth tens of millions of dollars, most spectacular, flaming seminars. But, we fail our way to success. And in fact, it reminds me of a funny story. I'm in masterminds. I believe in masterminds very heavily. And I host my own actually as well. But I was in this digital marketing mastermind and I met Sarah Blakely, the billionaire owner of Spanx, the women's undergarments. It started with $5,000 and now she's a, gazillionaire, beautiful human being too. But she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what a freaking awesome question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure, right? So anyway, it was reassociating with what I wanted back then. It was also getting around an empowering peer group. So I got involved in Tony Robbins' materials and was in his platinum partnership at that time, thank God. So I was around people who were like, oh yeah, 50 million, schmillion, whatever. Just get your butt back up and quit whining and go to work, okay? And so, I was around people that didn't allow me to connect through pain. We connect as human beings. It's very often to connect through pain. Like, for example, if someone comes up to me on the street and says, hey, Rod, how you doing? I'm like, oh my God, man, I am fantastic. Life is freaking amazing. They take a step back and say, okay, Rod's off his meds. But if they came up to me and said, how you doing? And I'm like, oh shit, my back is killing me, or I just lost some money and well, woe is me. They'll put your arm around you and say, oh, I feel you, brother. We connect that way. And we gotta be real careful of that. I know if you're listening to Rob, you're a leader. Okay. And as a leader, focus is critical. And it's so easy. Don't get me started on the fake news and the crap that's out there right now. You need to bring in the good stuff, stand guard at your mind from the negativity. And, the news isn't there to to inform us. It's there to startle and scare us. So, pay attention to what you bring in, even if you're just leading your family. Focus is so critical. So that was another piece. I had to really manage my focus. What am I looking at? Focusing on what I want, not what I don't want, not driving using the rearview mirror, driving looking forward. So it was peer group, it was goals, peer group, it was focus. It was positive expectation, because whatever you expect, you're going to get, positive or negative. So it was that. And then it was just massive freaking action. Okay. And, I built a company out of the ashes of that, a litigation support company that, I sold a few years ago, turned into a $10 million business with 60 employees. And, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, very often we have to innovate or pivot. And that company actually almost went bankrupt in the end of January. And I had to innovate. My thought leadership business, I was supposed to have 800 people in Orlando in May of 2020. And I had sold a bunch of tickets. And I'm like, holy shit, what are we going to do? And if you go to multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com, you'll see me on my camera. We didn't even take the video down, I don't think, recording the video because I had to pivot and create a video studio. And like we talked about before we started recording, Rob, you did the same. You were doing everything online, or a lot online now. Now I do them live, thank God. Again, I've got a 3-day live boot camp coming up in Denver in July. But I had to go virtual. And so I had to innovate. I had to pivot. And maybe you're listening to this and you're at that place in life and you need to innovate or pivot or reinvent yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. The key is to do it. Okay. And not to get locked up in fear. Just take massive action. And, if you know what it is you want and one path doesn't work, you keep your eye focused on that goal that you want and you change your approach. And if that doesn't work, you keep your eye focused on that goal and you change your approach and rinse and repeat. And, and that's what you do. You don't give up. It's only a failure if you give up or you don't get the lesson.
I need a little more energy out of you. You're a little flat today. Come on, Rod. Where's the A game?
This is my 5th interview today, so I apologize for that.
Well, please don't come on the first or second with me because my equipment won't be able to handle it. Listen, you're a guy of a lot of energy. There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, I love the way you refer to those as seminars because those are massive teaching lessons. Second thing that I really pulled from this is. And it's funny, I've talked to a few people in a similar space as you, and they share one common goal. They don't enjoy failing, but they don't fear it. And, my son you talk about a career that's a little bit risky. He's a stand-up comic. Oh, wow. And but for 10 years, he's in that space. And I gave him one time a dog tag he still wears to this day. And we're trying to figure out exactly who said it. It might have been Robert Schuller, but it's the quote, what would you attempt to do if you knew could not fail? You got it handy?
Hold on. Hold everything.
There you go.
There Excellent. It is. What would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? On my desk, brother. Right there.
I got mine right here.
Okay. Next to Winston Churchill, never, ever, ever, ever freaking give up. Right.
Yep. What's freaking in there?
What's happening in Ukraine and Russia right now. But anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole.
Did Churchill throw in freaking? I don't remember that part.
No, probably not. No, that was embellished by me. Thank you. Get a little poetic license, please.
Well, it's a tremendous story. And I tell you, whether we call it a seminar or whatever we call it, the fact of the matter is, I think you and I and many people listening share one common story. And that is nobody gets up in the morning and rubs their hands and says, I can't wait to fail today. But I'll tell you this, the greatest lessons I've ever had in my life are from when I got kicked down and knocked down on the street. As my dad used to say, you get up, dust yourself off, put one foot in front of the other, and let's keep going. But those are the lessons that stick.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've had many, many seminars. We all have relationship related, health related, certainly business ad nauseum related. And, you just get up, you stay focused on what you want. You recognize that it's a setback, but setbacks are wake ups. Okay. And how, you know, feedback, you bring in the feedback. Don't be afraid of the feedback. You know, if you come to one of my boot camps, the next day you'll get a survey from me. And of course, 99% of it's glowing, but I'm looking for that 1% that I can improve. You know, Tony Robbins calls it CANI, constant and never ending improvement. We're always trying to make it better. And that's how you live your life. And so, you know, and that's a lesson in any of my businesses that I'm always looking, you know, we're always looking to try to make it better. So if you're an entrepreneur and you've got a business, I encourage you to adopt that mindset, because it really, these little shifts that you make in every little aspect of your business, because be sales, marketing, operations, whatever, those little shifts, you take them out a year and they're a bigger shift. 5 years, they're a massive shift. And so, you know, that's another great lesson I got from Tony. I spent a lot of time following him around the planet, and of course, he's probably the best in the world at what he does. And
well, I like your use of that term. I had written that down. Not just pushing through your fear and taking action, but taking massive action.
Massive freaking action. That's my line right there.
Massive freaking action. We're gonna have to put that on a dog tag too. Don't just take action. Take massive freaking action.
That's right, baby.
And you may have done this, but I want to make sure that we got it. This mindset psychology that you speak of. Okay. Is that where we are right now? Just articulate that for me.
Well, so here's the thing. Life is 80 and 90% of your success in anything is your mindset. Okay. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical information, whatever the vehicle is. If it's real estate, if it's entrepreneurship, it's buying a franchise, if it's investing in the stock market, that's the smallest piece. If it was just knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there. It's the do and it's the keep doing. It's the pushing through fear to get started. It's the pushing through limited beliefs to get started. You know, beliefs like I'm not good enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not analytical enough, whatever. There's a reason that the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 9.9% of them are. You know, we had some emotional thing happen in our childhood. Like for me, I didn't speak English when I immigrated to this country. I was born in the Netherlands, you know, wooden shoes, windmills. I got thrown into school, didn't speak English, found out what bullies were for the first time. And my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest, lederhosen. So I got my ass kicked again. And then the bullies would chase me home from school, and she'd chase them off with a fly sweater. Next day, you know what happened? Butt kicked again. And so I created this limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. And so many people have these. And that's why it's so critical to get aligned on what you want and why you want, and create that burning desire so you push through that crap. Or maybe you're fearful. I'm going to tell you, fear regret much more than failure. Okay. If you're analytical, for example, don't fear failure, fear regret. There was this nurse in Australia, Rob, named Bronnie Ware. And she was a hospice nurse. I don't know if she's still alive, but she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked them a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? It was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. So, you know, again, if you're one of these people that's in analysis paralysis, afraid to take action, fear failure, for God's sakes, get a lesson from that book and fear regret instead.
Yeah. You know, if you, and I know you do, you talk to entrepreneurs, there's one mantra just about every entrepreneur shares, and that is when you say, and when you finally took that dive, what were you thinking? And they all say, I should have done it earlier. That's what I was thinking.
Every time. And, you know, I will tell you, those of you listening or watching, think back to something amazing in your life that you did. And I will tell you, I promise you got uncomfortable. Okay. Just a little bit of discomfort. That life of your dreams, that magnificent life that you want and deserve, is just on the other side of comfort. And so, you know, you've got to push through that. And again, that's why, again, on my boot camps, I focus on that piece, on the goals to get the burning desire going. You know, also do some things around identity, because there's no greater force in the human psychology than need to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves. So we do an identity exercise. Because anything you put the words I am in front of, is an identity statement. And so I've got things on my wall here I can show you. I've got, I am a business genius. I'm the best in the world at what I do. I am success. And again, that's not ego. That's what I'm aspiring to embody. And, and I've got others, I'm health and energy, I'm courage, I'm determination. And I yell this stuff at the top of my lungs when I'm running. In fact, my kids help me at my boot camp sometimes, and they're my AV and they help. And that's the question they get the most often. Does he really do that shit? Yeah, he does. Now I've got an exercise room here at the house, so nobody has to hear me. But when you do that and you yell, I am courage, and it gets into your psyche. And so if there's something that you need more of, like courage, like determination, like focus, like health and energy, I encourage you to incant it and affirm it and say it loud and with emphasis. And it gets in, like I say, gets in the fiber of your being. And I'm telling you, it's another incredible, powerful strategy to shift things in your life.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you that this boot camp of yours sounds amazing.
Thank you.
We'll talk about it at the very end, but I got to talk about it for a second now. Okay. How does somebody sign up for one of your boot camps?
Yeah, just text my name, Rod, to 72345, and I don't sell anything there. It's 3 days. I don't sell anything. If early bird pricing is like $197. This will probably go live before the price goes up. And if it does go up, just DM me on social. I'll honor that price. But it's every part of this business that we do about multifamily real estate. It's not like a teaser. It's 3 full days of freaking training. In fact, it kills me. By Monday, I'm face planning for a week because it's me for 3 full days, 8 to 12 hours a day. But I don't sell anything there. And it's, and people are like, you $197, you don't sell anything? No, because I give so much value. And by the way, here's a lesson. The most successful, wealthiest people on the planet are the ones that add the most value. Okay. So remember that. And so I do everything I can to add as much value as I possibly can, because you and I both know, Rob, it comes back 1,000-fold. So, people are like, okay, if he does this, what does he do in his coaching program? And I'll tell you something else I'm really proud of. Brag for a minute. I've been teaching about 4 years. My students now own, that I know of, well over 55,000 units. It's probably a lot more than that. But I mean, that's one of my greatest accomplishments is that kind of success with my students. Next to my kids, I'd say it's probably my greatest. And so, but that's the key. When you focus on adding value without any expectation. In fact, when I started my podcast, I told you we just hit 12 million downloads. The first few episodes, you'll hear me say, I'm never going to sell you anything. I just want to add value to you. And that was the truth. I never planned to. And I'm a liar because I've got all sorts of stuff, but I never planned to. That was the approach that I took. And I used to do free phone calls with my listeners. I did hundreds of them, 30-minute phone calls. I got nothing to sell you. Let me see if I can help you. And, a lot of those people actually became students once I started, coaching and things like that. And now it's turned into this incredible, you can see behind me here, I've got hundreds of thank you cards from students. You can't even see them all. The whole wall behind me is covered.
I'm looking at them.
Yeah, that hundreds of thank you cards from students whose lives have been impacted. And this, I'm sure you get this too. It's our greatest gift in life to get that kind of feedback, and see people achieve success and know we played a small part of it,
Well, particularly when we've enjoyed some success. So for instance, I mentor a lot of authors, and some of them look at me because it's the same thing. I don't really want to make a business out of that. Mm-hmm. If I did, I'd go broke. Why don't we just sort of like if you've ever spoken at the universities, why don't you just not pay me for what you're offering and let me just do a great job for you. I'll feel better. You'll feel better. But I hear that all the time. But what I tell my authors is when your book gets published, you're going to be the happiest person on the face of this earth. But guess who's going to be second? I'm going to be right behind you because I know the joy of that type of success. Right. And other than sharing it with me, I love to share it with other people. It makes me feel good. I'm being selfish with you, Rod. I know that picks up my spirit when I've contributed to somebody else's success. And I think that's what you're saying right now.
Listen, I'm addicted to it because, and this is not ego. What I'm about to say is I probably get love somewhere between 5 to 15 times a day. Okay. I'll get DMs, email. I could go on my phone right now and read some off literally from today. Phone, email, cards, gifts, sometimes pretty extravagant gifts. And it's it's addicting, you know, when you get that kind of love and feedback. That's when my wife puts up with me working Sundays and everything else, because she knows how much I love it. And yeah.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. I get some thank you notes, but I don't get that level. That's very impressive.
Yeah, please know that's not ego. That's
it's
just
not ego.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
really glad you
that.
shared it with us.
Yeah, it really is just a gift. It's a freaking blessing, man. And you know, and I'll tell you, I think one of the reasons, and by the way, if you're not interested in real estate, I have a podcast. It's called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing, but I do a clip every week called Own Your Power. Okay. And it's about owning your power. In fact, this week's is about grace, bringing grace, the power of grace in your life. But I mean, every week it's a different topic. I've done hundreds of them. So even if you're not interested in real estate, come listen. They're 5 minutes long, and I will juice you once a week. So if you need a little push in the butt, a little motivation, a little self-actualization, come check it out. I think you'll be really glad you did. I'm really proud of them, and I enjoy them, and we play music with them, and they're inspiring. So, you know, allow me the gift of being able to maybe inspire you if you're listening. And again, it's Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. And
beautiful. And I'll put it on our landing page as well.
Thanks, bud.
But, you know, I want to double back on something you said. I want people to hear this. You're hearing Rod, who, you know, low energy Rod over here, who we can barely get a word out. But no, you're hearing a man that's very passionate. And one of the things he's passionate about is the simplicity of somebody writing a note and saying thank you. I wish people would understand. I wish I would do it more often. I wish people understood when they come up at a seminar and say something. And I get people looking at the ground. I can barely hear the words. I really like what you did. I don't think people understand that. Yes, I know that took courage, but please know from my end, it was one of the nicest things you could possibly do. It really matters. I wish we were in a culture where people would understand that it lands. It really, really helps. The fact that many people are just listening in their car right now, you can't see when Rod gets up and pulls his curtain back, but I saw it. It is in Rod's words, a freaking wall of notes. So, but it matters. And so one of the things I'm going to take from this podcast is a reminder that I need to do that, not just enjoy it, getting a note from someone, but write a few more notes. I think it's important.
Yeah, no question. You know, I mentioned, and I'm going to have you on my podcast, and I had another exemplary sales trainer on the show, Tom Hopkins, and he actually talked about that as well. The power of that, of just handwriting a note. And it's just so personal. It's so intimate. And of course I got one from him after the show. Of course, I got two of them on my wall. I've had him on twice. And it's just, and I'm so glad you reminded me of that, because it's such an intimate, powerful gesture that takes a minute to do, you know? So Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, well, thank you for reminding. And you know what? I'm going to be writing you a note.
Okay.
Thank you. You're going to be my first note so we can see whether this stuck.
Love it.
Rod, I went to your website and I saw one of the most beautiful homes I've ever seen. And I saw the words 20 years to achieve it and 2 months to become disillusioned by it. And I think we're getting to this difference between achievement and fulfillment, but walk me through that.
Sure. Yeah. So I immigrated to Denver. Okay. And we really struggled. I'm going to tell you, I wore clothes from the Goodwill all the way through junior high school. We ate expired food, drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning, which sounds better than it is, trust me, and really struggled. But I always knew I wanted more. And 20 years later, and I always knew I wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver. And so I would visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million mansion on the beach, a spectacular home. I mean, I had the beach on one side, I have boats on the backside, and it was a Gulf to Bay. I had to slice through an island. It was unthinkable when I was 18. But then again, you know, when I walk people through my goal setting workshop, that's one of the things I tell them: take the lid off your brain. There's nothing you can't do, be, or have. You just got to make a decision and then take massive freaking action, like we talked about. And so, you know, so I built that house on the beach, and 2 months. I mean, let me just describe it a little further. A giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Pool was in magazines. spiral staircase up through the middle of the house, giant spiral, wine cellar, elevator. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the spiral staircase, cost me almost 200 grand. So this gives you an idea of the house. Anyway, so 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in my pool at night. And so I'd worked for this thing for 20 freaking years. Okay. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool. I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. I told you I had to prove the world I was good enough. And I got depressed. And I don't mean just a little depressed. I mean, I got really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? I've just achieved success. I mean, I had the Maserati and the Mercedes and the boats and the jet skis and all the stuff, beautiful family in the house. And I was depressed. And so I went out and bought some books, and Zig Ziglar back then and Tony Robbins. And I started reading Tony's book, and I went and saw him live. But see, there were several things happening that I want to talk about. One was, and this relates to goals. You should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Because like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. So that was one piece. Second thing is, it's never about the goals. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat, the day they sell the boat. It's about who you become on your path to the goals, but happiness comes from progress and growth, regardless how little it is. So one of the things I teach in my boot camp is this planning process where you acknowledge your progress. It's so important consciously to acknowledge it, because you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have delays, but if you're acknowledging your progress, you're happy. So that's the second thing. But the third big one was I was totally focused on me. I'm not going to say I was narcissistic, but it was all about proving the world I was good enough. How can I show them I'm good enough? Rod this. And so I went and saw Tony and found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I am embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. So I went home and I called my brother who lives in Denver, who I was going to visit for Thanksgiving. I said, brother, I found out he fed families. That's what Tony fed families. That's where I got the idea from. So I called my brother and I said, let's feed 5 families. And so he called his church, said, who really needs help? We got 5 families. And I flew in and we bought all the food and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Bought toys for the kids, frozen turkeys. The third family changed my life. Go up to this house. It was a row house where it's a 1-bedroom, but it's a shitty 1-bedroom because you walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which has the bathroom off it. I mean, it's just not even a good 1-bedroom. And there's a woman lived there with 5 kids. She comes out, she sees all the stuff on the porch, the food and the toys, and she starts crying. And I mean, really crying. And then her kids come out and the older ones see her crying and see all this stuff and they start crying. And I start crying and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say, Rob, in the last 22 years, we have fed well over 110,000 kids here in Sarasota and Bradenton. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local kids that don't have the basic supplies for school. Don't get me started on that. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to the local police departments for officers to keep in their trunk. If they encounter a child that's been traumatized, they can comfort the child. And again, please know I'm not bragging with this. There's a really important message with this. We've been taught to believe we have to succeed to be happy. You have to achieve to be happy. Okay. I'm going to tell you, if you incorporate giving back, even just a little bit into your life, you're happily achieving. Okay. Now I know it's a play on words, but so again, I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement really is a science. If you want to be wealthy and multifamily, come to my boot camp. You just got to do what I tell you to do, massive freaking action, and you'll make it happen. There's a blueprint or a map to that, but fulfillment is more of an art because you have to find what juices you. For me, it's kids. So what I'm going to tell you, if you're sitting here listening to this and you've got blood dripping from your teeth, you want success so freaking bad, listen up, because I'm going to tell you, if you incorporate giving back, first of all, the success will come faster. Okay. That's just the way God or the universe works. Whatever you believe, it's going to come faster. And you don't do it for that reason, but find what juices you, kids, elderly, the environment, animals, whatever it is, and give back now. Don't say I'll do it when I have money. Do it now. Give your time if you have to, whatever, because you'll be happily achieving. You'll be fulfilled. You'll be happier. You'll get there faster. Trust me on this. I had to be 40 to understand this. So anyway, long answer to your question about the house.
Yeah. Well, I'm not cutting you off, my brother. Right. I'm telling you, it's interesting. I'm hearing you say that when my father passed away and he had a good, rich life, lots of different things and professionally successful, everything, all he wanted to talk about that last year was Boy Scouts.
Nice. Yeah.
That's what he was. He was a scoutmaster.
Nice.
He was just totally into it.
Nice.
Last thing, you walk. I wanted to make sure that we landed on this. I saw on your site, Tiny Hands Foundation.
Yeah, that's the name of my foundation.
Right now.
Yeah, that's the foundation. I cover all the operational expenses and then a whole lot more than that. Every dime goes to food and backpacks. And I formed it. I actually paid for this up until 2008 when everything crashed. In 2008, I fed 1,500 families, 4,500 kids in 2008 out of my pocket. But then when everything crashed, I formed this foundation and I take donations. So if you're interested in donating, $26 feeds a family, just text Tiny Hands to 72345. And again, every dime goes to the food and the backpacks and the teddy bears. I cover everything else and then some. Right. So, it's not like one of those charities where they fly around first class and only about 50. Yeah. So, but Tiny Hands to 72345. Thank you for doing a shout out on that.
Oh, sure. I actually saw a little bit of it on your website.
Thank you.
It looked really impressive. One of my clients used to be a company called Foundation Source. And I was on retainer for a few years. I got to really look at how foundations are created and run. And so not all of them are created equally, right. But it sounds like you got this thing.
Some of them are actually for profit, believe it or not.
Right.
It's a loophole in some cases, a strategy, but not this one. This is completely philanthropic.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to land. I know you and I could go an hour more, and maybe so far I've never had a guest on second time. If I did, it'll be you.
Oh, that's kind of you, brother.
I mean that. I really appreciate not just your information, but your energy. You don't know me very well, and I'm trying to be a good host, so I take a back seat. But you better watch out for when I get on your show, because I'm gonna knock you out. I'm gonna come right back at you.
I can tell. No, I can tell, brother, and that's why I offered, which I don't do very often. But I know you'd add tremendous value, so we'll make that happen. I
appreciate that. One last time, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, realestatewithrod.com. My podcast is Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. If you're interested in the boot camp, if you have any interest in real estate, for God's sakes, come. Again, if you come to the whole thing and you don't love it, I'll give you your money back. I don't mean like it, I mean love it. So text Rod to 72345 and the link is there. And again, if the price has gone up from $197, just DM me on any social channel and my team will take care of you. Beautiful.
Well, I'm grateful you spent some time with us today.
Thank you.
Tremendous value and enthusiasm and energy. I've got, I'll show you again, folks, you can't see it, but I'm showing Rod right now. I wear this every time I get on stage. It's a little lightning bolt. And
cool.
If you can see it in my hand, and it stands for energy and enthusiasm. And to me, that's where it all begins. So let's take what we heard today. Let's make sure we all have our own style. That's Rod's style. We can't copy his style, but we can copy his technique. And his technique is make sure you put the tunes behind the words. And I think that's what we're hearing. Anyway, very grateful to have you on the show. Thank you so much, Rod.
Thank you.
We'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.